So the knowledge-based content, we're going to go over this, and this sort of matches what you saw originally, but the knowledge base is designed to be a repository for all this different type of information. So your business glossary, your catalog of reports, and your data system inventory, your data models and lineage and data quality, reference data. Maybe you've got sort of standards definition, information about data access and security. Your data requests can flow through there if you have a fairly mature process. Change management, understanding when things have changed and version and all that, and then possible integration, how it connects to other systems. So as you think about and build out your content in a knowledge base, you want to be able to have a repository in there for all of these components. So some people, and many clients of ours, they start doing this originally if they've decided they want to do data governance, they'll build some of these things in spreadsheets or websites or other sort of tools, ticketing systems to keep tracks of things, and that's great if you have that content started. But there's a certain point where that begins to break down in terms of a knowledge base to track all this content. And one of the reasons is that first of all, it needs to be sort of available to everyone. So if you're just sort of keeping it in some sort of spreadsheet on some sort of file, and how accessible is that to your consumer who's trying to understand a report, or all these different users. So it needs to be available and open to all the users. That's one issue. Maybe you can accomplish that with websites and things. I'll come back to the slide in a second. Well, I'll go ahead. I was leading up to something that comes later, but so how are people going to be using this knowledge base? You have to think about it, and so that includes the types of things that people will do is they might go searching for information, right? For various reasons. Do reports exist or definitions exist? Then if they don't find something, they may be requesting, so submitting a request for a new data deliverable, a new report or an answer, right? They may be defining, so they may be going in there and adding data definitions or business glossary items and interacting with it that way. They may be approving, someone else has done that, now I'm going to go approve something that's in that knowledge base. Building, they may be creating like if a spec has been created, I'm going to go look at that spec and go build something based on that information that was there. Delivering, now I've delivered that, I'm going to deliver my report, I'm going to have the documentation for that report in the knowledge base, or the documentation for the API. There may be testing happening so someone who I've delivered a report, now I'm iterating on that and I'm sort of updating the requirements or the process, or at least I have the details on what this report is supposed to do in my knowledge base. Right. Once I'm finally done with this, I've iterated that documentation that in theory should have also been part of testing is now available. Like I could just document items in the knowledge base for the users to see. I might also be copying. So another thing you could do in the knowledge base, I'm going to go in, I'm going to create another report, I'm going to create a new definition. I'm going to find things that already exist, right? And that's the real goal. Like start from that, make a copy and make a change. So it needs to be something that, like a good code library that you can take and borrow and copy from. I might also be sharing. I might have created something and I got asked by another institution or another department who wants to have access to this information. I want to be able to share that information with other people. So there you go. That's sort of the uses of this by your different stakeholders that will be involved. The other thing is that a knowledge base, you might want to think about a knowledge base as not being entirely like all the information to be locked solely in that knowledge base. So if you have people like Connie who are trying to, who are looking at reports and want to understand what it means, right? Do they have to go to some, stored file system or website to get that other information, or is it available in the tool that they're using, right? So maybe it's something that's embedded into the reporting tool for a link to the documentation, or something else that's embedded in that process that is synchronized with your knowledge base, or it's something that your ticketing system can interact with if you're talking about the request process, or you might be able to search data definitions or search for reports from within your other student portals or other, faculty or internal websites or portals, rather than, again, having everyone have to go to this knowledge base, particularly if it's some sort of distributed set of information in CSVs and Google Docs and things like that. So that's another thing to think about in best practices, is that a knowledge base that stores all this content should be accessible The other useful thing in the knowledge base is to manage versioning and approvals and comments. So being able to sort of track your change history of items in there and make sure that it's a living document. You also want to have be able to have things get approved and rejected. So anyone can sort of contribute content with the appropriate permissions, but that might go to the stewards for approval and review and editing, right? So having some sort of status of this is the official definition or this is something that's in progress is important. And then you might want to allow and show comments. So we have like this particular definition is, someone's going to ask a question on it, or you can sort of retain sort of comment thread, or you can interact with it. So that's some best practices to have within your knowledge base as well. Now, lastly, and this is where I was heading before, and I should remember next time to move this slide up, is that you have all this content. And if you have taken the approach, which I applaud you if you have so far, to document these things, but you have them in a whole bunch of different things like spreadsheets and Word docs and websites, that it's important to note that at some point you realize that all this content is really connected, right? So you have definitions that refer to other definitions, or you have definitions that refer to your technical metadata, or you have data quality attributes that refer to your reference data lists, or sort of collections of things like a dashboard that connect to specifications for individual report or charts and things like that. So or definitions that are on reports, and it just goes on. So all these pieces are connected, and what you want to have is that when you change something, you only want to have to change it in one place. So if I have a definition that's like active student or whatever that's used on 50 reports, and I change that definition, I shouldn't have to go modify all 50 reports, right? So that's one feature, like helping them just change it in one place. But the other thing is you should be informed, if I make a change to that definition, what are those 50 reports? And someone has to go look at them and figure out if there's any impact on them. Or when I make a change, I should be able to say whether or not there's impact. So that's one of the first reasons that people sort of, when they're looking at a knowledge base, they quickly realize that they're outgrowing their homegrown version of this, that having things that are connected. The first is that they sort of aren't able to really keep it up to date. And it's sort of part of a process, and it's languishing in whatever repository it is that's not very open. But the second thing is that now, like if they're using it well, that they don't have the interconnectivity that's important to making it really useful.